Howdy doody. I'm trying to think of new ways of saying hello, actually. That's another one, howdy doody. And I'm not going to go into without further ado. That's another one. Without further ado. How about with more ado? Ado, do, I don't know. Crazy turn of phrase that people use. Don't like it. You'll never hear me say it. Oh no. Now then, the handwriting for exams was popular, as was the Old English and the American writing one. But I'm going to do another one, an uncial, in a bit. The Old English, by the way, somebody rightly said it might not have been called that. There is a long list of different types of writing that emerged over the centuries, really, as people moved from writing to printing and so on. And in different countries, they called it slightly different things as it morphed from one thing to another. So I used the term Old English, as I said back in this comment, because that's what's on the computer. And it's one of the many names for that type of writing. Anyway, it was good fun to do. I'm going to have a look at some other issues today. It's Monday morning and a few things have cropped up. Thinking about the pandemic, really. It's starting to loosen a bit here in Britain, although they've just pulled back. If you've gone to Spain on your holidays, if you come back to the UK from today, you've now got to spend a fortnight at home. Oh, a fortnight, about 2 weeks. Which is a bit of a shock, because if you're thinking of going back to work, it ain't going to happen. And apparently you can be fined if you don't stick to the rules. So, yeah, things are changing a bit. Now then, one thing that I've noticed, and I did write to one of the papers, the magazines that I get. In fact, it's one I held up before from the RSPB. And I said that rather than have a stack of paper magazines, which I don't know if you've got this, but I've got a stack of them, which is sometimes good to look back on, but more often as not, they just get stacked up and then get thrown away. I've got my daily newspaper now. I get the iPaper and I get it online. It doesn't cost as much. I don't have to go down to the paper shop to pick it up, which is what I was doing, and that's what I didn't want to do. So it prompted me to have a closer look online to see if it's there. And it's much, much better. First of all, you just don't have lots of physical paper to throw away, which has got to be a good thing. And then secondly, it's so much easier to flick through the pages and to find out what you want. And in particular, the puzzle pages. My wife and I both do the crossword. And I can do the crossword first online on my pad, my iPad. And once you're finished with it, you can reset it so it's cleared. Previously, I was having to take the newspaper and somehow copy it so that I have a paper copy of the crossword. But now, when it's done online, and it's so much easier to type in the answers to the questions. Magazines ought to be online, and one or two of them are not yet online, and they should be. So I'm hoping that's going to occur sooner than later. What else? Oh, Boris Johnson, our erstwhile Prime Minister, if you didn't know, he had COVID-19, went into hospital, went into intensive care and was very, very poorly. And part of the problem of the difficulty of getting through that was being overweight. So he has now said that we ought to check our weight and see if we can lose weight. Even suggesting that doctors, this is sort of odd thing they would say, doctors prescribe bicycles, a prescription for a bicycle, and he's going to the chemist saying, here's my prescription, give me a bike. I mean, how weird. But there's a lot of truth in it. Now, during this pandemic, there's been a lot less traffic on the roads, and the cycles, and I do a lot about cycling, a lot of more people on bikes, just ordinary families, kids, mums and dads out on bicycles because there's less traffic, and it's all the better for it. So if we want to have more people cycling, we need less traffic on the roads, or of course to make cycleways where there is no traffic, like they do in Holland, and I've spoken about this before. So I wrote to my Member of Parliament, who is my representative in the government, and he is of the Conservative Party, so they are in government as well. And I wrote to my local councillor, who also happens to be a Conservative, and they both wrote back. And the Member of Parliament, Marcus Jones, who I know quite well, he said, yeah, he'll keep an eye on it. And then, a few days later, Boris Johnson says, let's have bikes. And I wrote to them, the Member of Parliament, saying, look, why not have a revolution in building cycleways? In the 1960s in this country, in Britain, we started to build the first motorways. We didn't have them. And our A roads, well, they used to wind their way through the countryside around trees and swamps and all sorts. And they were windy and narrow and very dangerous. And they were routes set out from the medieval times, really. For example, this is the A5 near where I live, and it's the route of the old Roman road that goes from London right the way through to North Wales, probably about 400 miles in length. It's very windy and old and dangerous. So with the advent of more road transport, lorries and so on, they decided that motorways needed to be built, and it was a revolution and indeed a great transformation of the transport in this country. So I'm suggesting that we have a revolution in building cycleways where there are no cars on the cycleways. So it's only for bikes, that's it. They do it in other countries, in Holland, for instance, and other countries on the continent, and I think we could do it here. And Boris has said, we've got to lose weight, we might as well cycle. And he is keen on cycling. If you ever come to London, there are these bikes that you can pick out of a rack, and you hire them, you cycle around London and put them back. And they are called Boris bikes, because Boris Johnson was Mayor of London when he introduced those, and a very good thing it is too. In fact, London and other big cities are so congested, the best way of getting around them is on bicycle. So it's there to be done, just need some forward thinking really. What else? One more thing. There's a third thing, masks. Somebody had written from a cultural point of view that there are some, I have to say, Islamic cultural groups where the women in particular, not the men, there you go, wear a veil, a face covers their face up. They've always done that. I say always done it. In fact, in Nuneaton we've got a sizable Muslim community, but it's only in recent years that the women have worn this veil, this face covering. And to be honest, it is a bit disconcerting when you can't see a person's face properly, when all you can see are the eyes. You lose a lot of the communication. And in an article in the paper today, somebody was writing that you do not lose anything. Well, you do. So here's a couple of things. If I'm talking to my son in California with FaceTime, which I use, I'm looking at him, I can see his face. I get so much more from that conversation than if, let's say, I was just listening to him on the telephone. So when we now all have face masks on, it is difficult to communicate more clearly with people with a face mask on. It is difficult to communicate more clearly with people with a face mask on. A couple of reasons. One, you don't know when they're about to speak. So if somebody starts to speak, they sort of look at you, okay, you've got a mask on, you still do that. But when you start to speak, you see the initiation of the conversation coming. And with a face mask on, you don't get that. And so when they start to speak, first it's slightly muffled because you're covered up like this. And secondly, you just can't see the face. All you see is the eyes doing stuff, and it's not enough. And on the telephone, we are restricted because there are certain things, you know, people say, oh, this is the doctor speaking. I've got some important news for you. Please come in and see me. I don't want to tell it on the telephone. I want to see you face to face. Or your boss will say, got some bad news. You're going to be fired. Oh, best come in and see me. to hear it over the telephone is not enough. Face to face, when you can see the whole face and all the communication that takes place that way, is far more impressive, and you get more of a communication there. So, without more ado. Oh, I've said it. Didn't mean to. That's it. That's 10 minutes gone. Wow. Anyway, 3 things. Online magazines and newspapers. 2, emergence of cycling and provision for cycling and losing weight. And thirdly, masks covering you up and being unable to communicate well with them. Not impossible, but not communicating well. Tell me what you think, please. Please comment. I haven't said this for a while, but please subscribe and please like and whatever. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing what your comments are about these subjects. Thank you very much indeed. End of vlog 44.